Good Day Chicago at 7 starts now.
And right now at 7 o'clock, Americans stuck after the killing of a cartel leader sparking violence across the country. We are live with the impact that situation is having on Mexico and the impact it could have here in Chicago as well.
President Donald Trump prepares for a State of the Union address. We're speaking with a political science expert about the impact it could have on the president's agenda. Plus,
assault rifles allegedly pointed at children. We have you covered on closing arguments in the case of a wrongful police raid.
And taking a live look outside, we are feeling the cold this morning, but temperatures, they will warm up a little before the end of the day.
All right, we thank you for joining us. Hope your Tuesday morning is off to a great start. We'll start our 7 o'clock hour by checking in with the man himself, Mike Kaplan.
What do you say?
It is going to warm up.
It is. Good. It is. We'll get into the 40s later today, but it's cold out there now, so don't leave without the hat, the gloves, the winter coat. It still feels like February, but we've got a couple of warmer days on the way, and the prospects for snow, which looked a little bit more concerning a couple of days ago here this week, kind of unimpressive now, and I'm fine with that. Brisk and chilly at 9 o'clock, 26 degrees. We'll be above freezing by noon, but it's going to be windy, and that wind stays up all afternoon. Could be some gusts of 40 miles an hour, but it's out of the south-southwest, which will drive temperatures up. Out there now, mostly cloudy, only 21. Look at the wind chill. Feels like 11 in a few spots. We've got wind chills in the single digits. Right now, 20 at Waukegan, 19 at Aurora, 23 at Joliet, 19 at Merrillville, 19 at Michigan City. Headed into the low 40s this afternoon. Let's check those travel times. It looks like the tow truck is getting the job done.
Indeed, indeed. That car ran into a median barrier right there on the near south side, right near the Byrne interchange on the inbound Dan Ryan. The aftermath of this thing, though, does have traffic backed up on the inbound Dan Ryan down to about 35th Street or so. So heads up there. It's a little slower on the Dan Ryan. You're at 41 minutes inbound. Hopefully things will improve now that that car's out of the way. Here are your other drive times this morning. It's a 40-minute ride inbound on the Kennedy from O'Hare to downtown. It's a 44-minute ride inbound on the Eisenhower from Route 390 to downtown, and on the Stevenson, 36 minutes, I-355 to DuSable Lakeshore Drive. There is an accident way out in Joliet. If you're heading west out of town in Joliet, be prepared for a potential backup there in the southwest suburbs. As for your trains, everything is going smoothly, except if you do take the UP Northwest line, there was an earlier train that was delayed, so you might want to check that app to make sure that your train on the Union Pacific Northwest is running on time. Okay, at 7:02, American tourists in Mexico. Some of them are stranded after the killing of Mexican cartel leader El Mencho.
Saquon joins us live. Good morning, Say. What's the update?
Hey, good morning to you. Yeah, the killing of El Mencho has sparked a wave of violence and unrest in parts of Mexico. And with that in mind, we know some Americans who are there right now are stranded with nowhere to go after the U.S. Embassy announced a shelter-in-place order for western parts, primarily of Mexico, including beach towns like Puerto Vallarta. El Mencho led one of the most powerful and most violent drug trafficking organizations in the world. Federal prosecutors have accused that cartel of trafficking massive amounts of drugs into the U.S., including the Midwest. Following the news of his death, cartel members reportedly became violent in several parts of Mexico. They were seen setting local businesses and cars on fire, setting up blockades in cities like Puerto Vallarta and Guadalajara. We spoke with a former DEA agent who says travelers there should take caution.
The main thing here for law enforcement is to continue doing each and every day what DEA and our partners do and collaborate with the Mexican authorities, because at the end of the day, it is a problem that happens in Mexico, but it brings a big problem to the United States. And I think anybody that is traveling and goes to Mexico at different times, you look at the State Department and you see where there may be issues, and you pay really keen attention to that. And even right now, if you're there,
Experts say when a cartel leader is killed, it often triggers internal power struggles or retaliation against rivals and government targets. For cities like Chicago, this could mean shifts in the drug supply chain, turf conflicts, or short-term spikes in violence as other groups try to compete for control. Most flights to and from the western parts of Mexico have either been delayed or canceled during this unrest. Now, officials with the Mexican embassy are making sure that people are checking information before they share it. They say that that there's been a lot of misinformation and misleading information that's being spread online right now. With that, we also know that authorities here are saying they are monitoring for possible retaliation. They're also looking for broader impacts on both sides of the border. Guys.
Okay, thank you very much for that report. President Trump will deliver his State of the Union address tonight.
He's expected to highlight what he's calling strong economic growth, but this comes amid concerns about high living costs and trade policies.
Watch the State of the Union. We're going to be talking about the economy. We inherited a mess, and now we have prices way down. We have energy way down.
The president is also expected to champion his immigration crackdowns, his slashing of the federal government, and push to preserve tariffs that the Supreme Court just struck down.
All right, a number of Democratic lawmakers, meantime, say that they're going to skip the speech entirely, including a number from Illinois. Mike Quigley's not going, Delia Ramirez, Jan Schakowsky, Sean Casten. None of them are going to be attending, and Casten explained his decision not to go on Chicago Live.
You're in this lose-lose situation where either you're mistakenly understood to be giving the president respect he hasn't earned, or mistakenly understood to be disrespecting the office that's not there. So I just felt that it's better to watch from afar. We'll certainly pay attention.
Democratic Representative Chuy Garcia will be there. He is bringing Marimar Martinez as his guest, and she is the Chicago woman who survived after being shot 5 times by Border Patrol agents in October.
Representative Bill Foster will also be attending tonight, and he'll be talking about the importance of each guest on the Chicago Report.
I've also brought a guest with me who is on the front line, Suzanne Hoban, who's she's on the front lines of dealing with the health care crisis that President Trump has brought on so many families. And I think it's important that when he looks out at the audience, he doesn't see just a bunch of yes men from his party, but from people that are actually dealing with the crises that he's brought on American citizens.
You can watch the State of the Union address live right here on Fox Chicago starting at 8. Today, closing arguments are scheduled to begin in a trial over a wrongful raid in Chicago. It happened in 2018. According to court documents, Chicago police swarmed the wrong apartment in the back of the Yards neighborhood, pointing assault rifles at children and forcing their grandmother to stand outside without pants on. The family sued the city and police officers involved. We'll have you covered live from the courthouse when this case picks up later on this morning.
Chicago police say someone is using a dating app to rob people in the Woodlawn neighborhood. There have been 4 reports of this happening, all of them in the 6600 block of South Blackstone Avenue. The first one happened February 5th. The most recent one happened just yesterday before noon. Police say a man is using the dating apps to connect with his victims, and police say once he gets them to meet him in person, he pulls a gun out and robs them.
Parts of the Northeast are waking up buried under snow. I mean, we're talking record snowfall here. We've seen some of the videos, pictures online. We had reports yesterday. Some of the hardest hit areas were New York and New Jersey. The heavy snow combined with high winds of up to 60 miles per hour left more than 600,000 people without power.
The blizzard of 26 has now officially surpassed the blizzard of 78 for the most snow ever recorded in a single snowstorm in our Rhode Island state history.
Thousands of people were left stranded at airports as more than 10,000 flights were canceled nationwide. 7:08, taking a live look outside here. Much different than what we saw. Just those looks from the East Coast. Mike, you said that we're getting a little bit of snow this week, but it's much less than we were supposed to originally, right?
Right. A couple days ago, it looked like Thursday might have a more impactful system. I'm just not impressed with it anymore. But I just want to remind people, the snow that came down in places like Providence, Boston, New York, those numbers out there, generally speaking, bigger than any snow we have ever had in Chicago, which is kind of surprising. You'd think proximity to the ocean there would kind of minimize how much snow they could get. Some cases, it actually amplifies it. All right, there's no big snowstorm on the way anytime soon for us. This is a map showing watches and warnings. There is a little light snow headed for the Northeast, nothing like what they had before. Some winter weather advisories, Pennsylvania, out there in Garrett County, Maryland. And then the interesting one to me is this. It's a cold weather advisory in Florida. Obviously, they're not going to be dealing with wind chills of 30 below zero. You know, the temperatures there are probably getting to around 30 degrees, but nevertheless, a cold weather advisory for them. Here, it's cold this morning. Temperatures close to 20 area-wide, 21 at O'Hare and Gary, only 19 at Woodstock and Aurora, and also Michigan City. But later today, a little bit of a bump. We've been kind of stuck in the 20s for highs the past few days. Today, with the strength of southerly winds, we'll get to 42. But as I just said, the strength of southerly winds, that will make it feel colder with that gust coming out there at about 16 to 32. There could be a brief sprinkle this evening, kind of between 4:30 and 7. I'm just not impressed with much precipitation at all. We'll bottom out at 25. Winds will taper off and skies will break. We have some ups and downs, temperature-wise, in the 7-day forecast, which I will share with you in just a couple of minutes.
I'm hoping for mostly ups. Hoping for mostly ups. Thank you very much, Mike. We appreciate it. 10 after 7. After the break, a political science professor is going to join us to lay out what we can expect during President Trump's State of the Union address. Stay with us.
Dealers.
Welcome back. The time is 7:13. Here are some of the top stories we're following this morning. New surveillance photos from Nancy Guthrie's home appear to show a suspect taken the day before she was believed to have been abducted. But the Piedmont County Sheriff's Office is dispelling that, saying any timestamp on the photos were not provided. It has been nearly a month since the 84-year-old disappeared. Authorities in Mexico appear to have restored order in several cities, but the U.S. Embassy in Mexico is telling Americans in 15 states to continue to stay indoors and to shelter in place. This comes after Cartel leader El Mencho died in a shootout during a military operation there, setting off violence across the country. At least 73 people, including 25 members of the Mexican National Guard, are dead. The city of Harvey has elected an acting mayor. The city council voted last night in favor of Alderwoman Shirley Drewinski. Drewinski had been serving as mayor pro tem since the unexpected passing of former mayor Christopher Clark. Anthony.
Okay, Gabby, thank you very much. Well, tonight, President Donald Trump will give his State of the Union address. It's the first one for his second term, and polling shows more and more people are concerned about the economy. He's also got some lower approval ratings. Stephen Maynard Caliendo joining me to preview what we could see tonight. Professor Caliendo, thank you for joining us.
Anthony, it's good to see you.
Okay, let's start off by talking about the likely focus here. Economically, okay, on the economy, what do you feel like he's going to focus on with regard to that issue?
It's a tricky one here. I mean, he certainly can point to the stock market, which has done very well over the past year, the first year of this administration. So he can talk about people's 401ks, et cetera. The fact is that people aren't feeling the economy, right? We know that inflation is not at the level that it was over a year ago, but that doesn't mean the prices have come down. It just means that they don't keep going up. And so the relief that he promised during the campaign in 2024 hasn't really hit households. So he's in a difficult predicament. He wants to certainly champion his accomplishments, but he has to connect with a public who really isn't feeling that right now.
Okay, another big issue is the partial government shutdown right now affecting the Department of Homeland Security. How might this impact the speech itself?
There'll be some references to it with respect to his immigration policies and ICE and Homeland Security generally. But I think the most important thing to note is that I think there'll be a number of Democrats who don't go. The last time we had a government shutdown, there was a request from the speaker at the time, Nancy Pelosi, to postpone the State of the Union until the government shutdown was resolved. We have not had that kind of request this time. And so the speech will continue. But I think there's going to be a number of Democrats who have some ideas for alternate programming tonight and will not be in Washington, or at least will not be at the Capitol.
Okay, some people expected to be at the speech. The Supreme Court justices, we've reported this week, the president not too happy with this group after that 6-3 decision to declare his tariff policy illegal. Do you expect the president to address the justices tonight?
It's one of the things I'm most looking forward to seeing, how he handles this. Look, President Trump has been better at staying on script during these joint session meetings than he is usually. Usually there's a speech for him and then he sort of goes off the cuff, and that's where he gets himself into all kinds of trouble. He does that sometimes in State of the Union, but he's mostly on script. I think it's going to be difficult for him as members of the Supreme Court, including two of his own nominees who ruled against him on Friday, are sitting right in front of him. He's very angry about this, clearly. We heard him on Friday in a long rambling address right after the decision was made. So he's upset about this, and I think it's going to be interesting to see if he calls them out directly or looks at them or makes jokes at their expense.
Okay, other issue a lot of folks are kind of focused on as well these days, the Epstein files. Do you expect President Trump to address that in any way?
I don't, but it's sort of the elephant in the room. In fact, there's going to be survivors in the room. That Democratic lawmakers, I know Ro Khanna and others, are inviting Epstein survivors to be there during the speech. Certainly, they won't be highlighted in the president's speech. He's in a very difficult predicament here too, where a year ago, the position of this administration was to release everything because they believed it was a big, important to do. And now the line is that it's mostly a Democratic hoax. About half the files have been released. The other half still have not been. And of course, you've well covered the issues with the redactions and so forth. And so I don't think this is an area that he's going to want to touch, although certainly Abigail Spanberger, who gives a Democratic response, will absolutely lean into the survivors in her remarks.
We also reported that Chuy Garcia from here in Illinois is going to have a guest. He's bringing Marimar Martinez along. She was the one who survived being shot by federal agents 5 times. In terms of the immigration crackdown, what do you expect to happen with regard to this dynamic tonight?
There's an opportunity for him to soften his language because Americans are not behind him on his immigration program. They certainly were behind him at the election time and believing that people who, especially as they say, quote unquote, the worst of the worst, those folks who have committed crimes and are in the country without documentation should be deported. What we've seen, though, with video camera, with cell phone imagery, et cetera, and certainly the killings in Minnesota, the folks are not with him on this. And so whether it's members who are sort of pointing things out and bringing guests, as Chuy Garcia will be doing, or whether it's just relegated to the Democratic response, the president is going to have to thread the needle on this very carefully. But it is an opportunity for him to soften his position.
Okay, we'll see what happens. Stephen Caliendo, always good to see you. Thank you very much for joining us.
Have a great day, Anthony.
All right, you too, you too. And you can watch the President's Address live here on Fox Chicago, 8 p.m. And Mike Kaplan, your approval ratings were just out of this world during the month of during much of this month.
Yes.
It took a little dip, but I feel like they're kind of on the comeback here.
I think they'll bounce back. The fact that we're downplaying a major snowstorm here on Thursday, the fact that we've got a 50-degree day coming up in the forecast, and I think next week temperatures are going to be pointed in the right direction, at least in my opinion. Hopefully the approval ratings are going to come up. It's cold out there right now, but at least we have a little bit of sunshine getting through some of that cloud cover. Temperatures 20-ish, give or take. We've got 21 at O'Hare and Gary, 20 at Chicago Heights, Merrillville, and Waukegan, only 18, though, in DeKalb. We'll make it into the 40s this afternoon, despite not a lot of sunshine. I think mostly during the morning hours, you'll go out, you'll still see your shadow. There'll be some thin cloud cover, but maybe the cloudiness gets a little thicker between 3 and 5 p.m. That will be tied to a cold front. The main story today, besides a little bump in temperatures, gusty winds, maybe getting up to 40 miles per hour. This evening, for 2 to 3 hours, there may be a little patch of sprinkle action coming through here with a cold front. Temperatures will drop. We'll have lows in the mid-20s tonight, so it won't get as cold tonight as it is out there right now. However, it will not be as warm tomorrow as it will be this afternoon. At least we'll have sunshine, 35. That next snowstorm, I think it's mainly a miss on Thursday. 55 on Friday, 42 on Saturday. Then it gets cold for a couple of days. Sunday night into Monday, maybe even a little bit of light snow coming in, but no big snowstorms in sight. All right, traffic. Anthony, what do we see?
Complicating thing is the inbound Dan Ryan. If you're coming in from the south suburbs, we had that earlier accident right at the Byrne interchange on the inbound side. That snarled things. And then this just popped up. A disabled vehicle has the left lane blocked inbound right near the Dan Ryan Bishop Ford split. So there's a backup there, some stop and go traffic. As of now, if you make it to 95th Street, you still have a 40-minute ride inbound to downtown. Other area expressways on the Kennedy are at 48 inbound from O'Hare to downtown. Also 48 on the Eisenhower inbound from Route 390 to downtown. On the Stevenson, a little quicker there. It's 43 minutes inbound from I-355 to DuSable Lakeshore Drive. And Metro trains are running smoothly, except I do advise checking the app if you use the Union Pacific Northwest. There were some cancellations of trains earlier this morning. A little bit of fallout could be possible there, so check that app. We'll be right back.
sale, ending soon.
Welcome back. This morning we are getting a picture of how families feel about the state of education in Illinois. The bipartisan survey from the Illinois Education Association, it tackles everything from teacher pay to school funding. And for the first time in the history of this survey, they asked people how worried they were about ICE arresting them, a child, another parent, or a school employee on school property. And 57% said they were indeed worried.
This was a concern raised by school teachers in Illinois about what is happening at public schools in Illinois.
In the city of Chicago, a lot of this activity did revolve around the schools. So we thought this was a very important question to ask.
Just this increase that we're seeing across the nation of using schools as a place to target, it deeply concerns me.
And some of the other findings here, 53% of respondents felt that teachers are paid too little. And of the parents who responded, 60% said that public school funding was a big concern.
Well, a bill designed to lure the Chicago Bears over the Indiana state line is another step closer to the governor's desk. The measure creates the financial structure to build a stadium in the Hoosier state. During a Monday hearing, the House voted to push it forward with an amendment that names Hammond as the official stadium site. The bill now goes to the full House for a vote.
For the first time ever, 2 HBCU schools will square off at Wrigley Field. Prairie View A&M University will play Alabama A&M University in the Chicago HBCU Classic. This is happening May 2nd. There will be marching band performances and other activities leading up to the big game. Tickets are free and are available at cubs.com/HBCU Baseball Classic. Yeah, how cool is that? All right, Mike, baseball, fun to think about that baseball game.
Hey, they're playing games already. You know, spring training has gotten underway. We have, oh, look, perfect timing there as we're over Clark and Addison there looking down on the friendly confines. We will have a mixture of clouds and sun today and a little bit of a warm-up, but the winds are going to be howling. What about Thursday's quote-unquote snowstorm? I've got the latest on that one coming up.
Fox.
Welcome back. Mexico says 25 members of the Mexican National Guard were killed in the shootout with El Mencho's cartel. El Mencho was killed Sunday. He was one of the major drug lords in Mexico. He was tracked down because agents followed his lover to his location. There are still travel warnings in several Mexican states because of the cartel's violent retaliation.
Closing arguments are set for today in a civil trial over a wrongful raid back in 2018. The family of Ebony Tate is suing the city. She says police raided her home and held her family at gunpoint. Police were looking for a gang member who was at the home next door.
President Trump will give a State of the Union address tonight, and it's expected he will talk about his plans for the economy and tariffs following his loss to the Supreme Court last week. He could also talk about a potential military strike in Iran over the country's nuclear program. Police in Arizona are still looking for the breakthrough that will help them find Today Show host Savannah Guthrie's mother.
Yes, there may be a new detail emerging in this case. Brian is here to explain what police have noticed. Brian?
Well, police now say that masked man seen on the Nest camera appears to have visited the home before her abduction. February 1st was the day that Nancy Guthrie appears to have been abducted, although it's not exactly clear exactly how many days before her abduction the man was seen at her home. People in Arizona have been searching on their own for Guthrie, who is 84 years old. They're hoping to find that one clue that breaks the case and helps find her.
I feel like they should be doing way more. I feel like more people should be out here helping. If it was their parents, I'm pretty sure people would want people to help. So I just think people should just put themselves in their shoes.
The Sheriff's Office says volunteers will be better off leaving the searches to the professionals. While that video was the most promising lead so far, nothing has come out of it as of yet. Anthony?
Okay. Thank you, Brian. Appreciate it. Another British official tied to the Jeffrey Epstein files has been arrested. Police arrested former British ambassador to the U.S., Peter Mandelson, yesterday. He faces the same charge the former Prince Andrew was arrested on, and this is suspicion of misconduct while in public office. Mandelson was fired in September when his connections to Epstein became public.
A federal judge permanently blocks the release of special counsel Jack Smith's investigation into President Trump's alleged mishandling of government documents. The judge, a Trump appointee, ruled the report should remain sealed, saying the original criminal case was thrown out and made the release unnecessary. The investigation accused the president of storing sensitive documents at Mar-a-Lago after leaving the White House and obstructing efforts to get the documents back. The president's 10% global tariffs have taken effect today. The Supreme Court said the president could not use the Emergency Powers Act to impose tariffs. So today, he's using the Trade Act of 1974 to do it. All the back and forth over tariffs have retail companies unsure what to do.
Tariffs are becoming harder to plan a business for than it is to plan an airline in the middle of a snowstorm. It's piling more uncertainty on at a time when the market's biggest need in the tariff arena is clarity.
The president intends to raise the tariff to 15%, but under the law, it's only in effect for 150 days unless Congress extends it.
Okay, you'll be able to see something very special in the sky this weekend on Saturday. Mercury, Venus, Jupiter, and Saturn will all be visible to the naked eye. That is, if the skies are clear. If you have a telescope or binoculars around, you can see Uranus and Neptune as well. Is that the full fleet of our solar system?
Is that true, Mike Kaplan?
That of the visible planets, that is correct, and I'm glad you pointed out that you'd need, optical aid to see Uranus and Neptune, because there's a lot of information out there saying see all the planets, and you will not be able to see all of them. But that should be great. Did you see Mercury last week next to the moon?
No.
Oh, it was spectacular. Very thin crescent moon, and Mercury was very close to it. A lot of people don't realize that they've seen Mercury. It never gets too far away from the sun in the sky because of how close its orbit is to the sun. Oh, yeah. So you're going to see it in the middle of the night, so it always kind of stays in the haze of the twilight. But that should be a nice view. Let's hopefully get clear skies so we can enjoy that. And if you don't see it on that one night, it'll be close to the same sort of a view for a few nights. But I don't want you thinking that all of those planets are going to be like in that tiny piece of the sky. They're spread out over a big part of the sky. Today, the star is going to shine. We'll have some sunshine breaking through the high clouds, and we'll need it to get out of these cold temperatures. It's not far from 20 anywhere in the area. 24 is the hot spot in Joliet, 19 at Woodstock, 18 at Valparaiso. And the downside of this warm-up is the winds are going to be picking up. We're already seeing them increase. We're now seeing some widespread double-digit winds out of the south. Later today, those winds are going to really be cranking. So there's enough wind to produce some single-digit wind chills. Valparaiso, Waukegan, Woodstock. Look at the number at DeKalb. Feels like 4 out there. We're advertising a warm-up, but don't leave this morning without a winter coat on. Later this morning, winds are going to be cranking, gusting to speeds of more than 30 miles per hour. That's not the sustained 10-minute average. Those are the instantaneous, ooh, it just suddenly got real windy here. But we'll keep those winds going here, dying back a little bit late this afternoon and this evening, but it never goes completely calm. But the winds will be shifting direction out of the south now. By the time we get to the wee hours of the morning, we will be behind a cold front, which will shift our winds more out of a west-northwest direction, blowing in some colder air tomorrow. Today, mixture of clouds and sun. As that cold front comes in, there may be a sprinkle. Our model is showing that happening kind of between about 4 and 8. This is not a lot of rain. Very little of that is going to reach the ground because of how dry the lower layers of the atmosphere are. Then that Thursday snowstorm, which a few days ago looked a little bit more worrisome, possibly having greater impacts in Chicagoland, just does not appear to be the case now. Light hit maybe south of I-80. I think even farther south is where a few inches of snow could fall downstate. Today, we will be maxing out at 42, then 35 tomorrow, 38 on Thursday, with a chance for some light snow, especially south, 55 on Friday, and then another chance for some light snow Sunday night and Monday. I've got 3 photos to share with you. First, from one of my old high school pals, Dr. Yvonne Nadler. She is in Tasmania, which is near Australia, and those are pelicans, but you don't see that type of pelican here. These are Australian pelicans. Cool shot there, Yvonne. Thank you for sharing. And then we go to Providence, Rhode Island, which if I had to pick an epicenter for the heaviest snow, that's where it would be. They picked up about 38 inches of snow. I don't even know how Karen McRae is getting rid of all the snow there. Look how high it's piled up on the roof. My goodness. Hopefully it'll melt it soon. And our final video is from Jim Pirelli. We've got some frozen bird bath action going on there. No snow on the ground, but definitely some ice in the bird bath. But it does sound like there's a little bit of water in there. I bet you've got a little heater going there so that the birds can get a quick drink. 7:38, there's a look at travel times. Definitely creeping up. We'll be back with more of Good Day right after this.
.com.
741, welcome back. We're talking about things beyond our southern border here. Airports in Mexico, they're starting to operate again, and the warning for tourists to shelter in place is now confined to people in and around Puerto Vallarta. But fears are still running high following that wave of violence after the killing of a powerful cartel leader. Joining us to talk about the situation is Ambassador Reina Torres Mendeville, Consul General of the Mexican Consulate, Chicago. Good morning to you, Ambassador.
Good morning.
Thank you for joining us. Let's talk about what the current situation is there, because it seems like, at least this morning, as if things are getting better.
Of course, things are going back to normalcy, step by step in a gradually manner. Of course, as you mentioned, people that are in areas of concern should exercise caution. The recommendation in general is for everybody to go to official sources, to consult with, what the Mexican government is saying. Of course, the U.S. Embassy in Mexico and the very robust consular network that the United States has in Mexico is also really a good, reliable source of information. So do not spread rumors, do not believe everything you see in social media. Things are getting better. The country is in peace, and normalcy is being restored in most of the country.
That's good to hear. Yes, listen to the officials. Ambassador, what can you tell us about cartel activity in Mexico prior to this week and this kind of big explosion that happened the last few days?
Well, as you know, these are transnational organized crime. These are organizations that work in many countries, that work in, across borders. So what happened on Sunday is really good news for the families on both sides of the border. I think that any major hit like the one that the Mexican army had last Sunday against these organizations is good news for the communities. I think it was a major hit because this was a very violent organization, and many people have been suffering from their activities in some parts in Mexico, and of course because of the consequences of the traffic of illegal drugs to the United States and any other activities that illegal activities that they display. So things are getting better because these people are now weakened by the operation that was conducted by the Mexican armed forces on Sunday.
Even with that being said, Ambassador, I do have to ask you, because we're talking about security experts, hearing them on other stations as well. They've warned that killing a kingpin like El Mencho would kind of create a power vacuum, as they called it. But what do you think the Mexican government is doing to ensure that rival cartels don't use this vulnerable moment to launch a bloody turf war in the country?
This many things can be anticipated, and as the Minister of Security said yesterday, and has been saying since Sunday, they have deployed armed forces all over the country where it's necessary to protect the Mexican population, and of course, the international visitors. But the other thing that is really important is that they have studied the scenarios after this operation that they conducted on Sunday. So they could anticipate, because of the intelligence, because of intelligence that the U.S. is sharing with them, so they can project some scenarios for the future, and they are acting in consequence.
All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. I'm glad to hear that things are getting better. Maybe we'll catch up with you again here as things really settle down. Ambassador Reina Torres Mendeville, Consul General of the Mexican Consulate, Chicago. Again, thank you for your time.
Thank you for having me.
7:45. All right, here's a look at what's coming up on Good Day Chicago at 8 and 9. Keep it right here.
Fox Local.
Welcome back. Some people in Michigan want to repeal the bottle deposit law. This was created back in the 1970s to keep litter off highways, but the Midwest Independent Retailers Association says it's outlived its need. It says the law makes groceries cost more because people have to return their old bottles to stores, and says that there should be a bigger push for curbside recycling.
It's a heavy lift, and we want to get that conversation started, especially at a time that grocery prices are maybe at their all-time high. And we think that by getting this started, we could actually lower the cost of groceries.
There hasn't been any response from the Michigan governor's office about the effort. Now, you might ask, why does Michigan's bottle law sound familiar? Well, it's because of a 1996 episode of Seinfeld called The Bottle Deposit, when Kramer and Newman came up with a scheme to use Newman's mail truck to haul bottles all the way to Michigan to collect those 10 cents per bottle for returning them. No spoilers if you haven't seen a 30-year-old TV show, but the plan for Newman and Kramer, it didn't exactly work out, unfortunately. All right, we're going to take a quick break. Here's a quick look at your drive times. We will be right back after this.
This message.
7:52 Hollywood warning another loss this morning.
It's a sad one. Jake joins us here with the very latest.
Yeah, for sure. This is a bummer, guys. Friends, family, and fans mourning the death of actor Robert Carradine. Carradine's family says he passed away following a years-long battle with bipolar disorder. He was the older brother of actors David and Keith Carradine. Here's the thing about Robert's career. Really, depending on how old you are, kind of determines what you know him from. He was best known for his roles as Lewis in Revenge of the Nerds and as the father of Hilary Duff's character on the Disney series Lizzie McGuire.
Huh. What? It says here lizards hibernate. They appear dead while they're actually sleeping.
Well, that's great.
Yeah.
Now Matt can take her back to class and...
Uh-oh. Let's get the shovel.
Matt, honey, why don't you keep the box open?
Robert Carradine was 71 years old. You know, it's one of those careers I always love someone's career where, you know, if you're 25 years old, 30 years old, you know him as this. If you're 40 years old, 45 years old, you know him as this. And it kind of shows a longevity where you kind of have an impact over multiple generations.
For sure.
I know that particularly Lizzie McGuire was a show that resonated with a lot of people. Gabby, I don't know. I don't know if you, I'm assuming you probably watched it. It was a staple in my house on the Disney Channel growing up. So I hope his friends and family are holding each other tight today.
Absolutely, Jake. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Sad. All right, plenty more Good Day Chicago to get to. Our 8 o'clock hour is coming up and next, so I hope your Tuesday morning's off to a great start. We'll be right back.
Night on Fox.
Welcome back. Aldi just recalled its frozen, ready-to-eat meatballs. The USDA says they may contain pieces of metal. One person found some in the Braemert family-sized Italian-style meatballs product. The affected products have a best buy date of October 30th, 2026. So if you have a bag, either throw them away or return them for a refund.
Norwegian Cruise Line is getting some heat over its new dress code policy. Guests eating at the 6 formal restaurants on board can't wear shorts, tank tops, distressed jeans, or flip-flops anymore. Some people are threatening to boycott the cruise line because of it. A new study has found a woman's first pregnancy alters her brain function, and so does a second, but in different ways. Researchers in the Netherlands performed brain scans on more than 100 women, including first-time mothers, second-time mothers, and women without children. First-time moms tended to have brain changes that foster bonding and attention. They also had changes related to postpartum depression. In second pregnancies, depression was more common before the baby was born.
Kevin Durant says he is ready for 2028. He wants to make the U.S. Olympic basketball team for the L.A. Games. But he says don't just give him a spot, make him earn it. He's going to be 39 when those summer games happen. But if he is on the team, he could get his 5th gold medal.
Okay,
Wow.
the Packers say if season ticket holders sell their tickets on the secondary market, well, there could be some consequences. The Packers say they might decide not to renew season tickets for people who sell them. The Packers have 155,000 people, silly people, on a waiting list for season tickets. Sorry.
All right, here is another reason to check all those shoe boxes buried in your closet. Someone found a 1909 Honus Wagner baseball card and some family heirlooms. So they did what anyone would do, put it up for auction, and guess what? It sold for $5 million. That is the third most valuable Honus Wagner card sold ever at auction.
Good Day Chicago at 8 starts